Well, John, it's the Pod Bay Door time.
Hey, that's great.
We are talking Vegas like we normally do. 104 yesterday. That was like old home week.
Yes.
The good part is it means the relentless, demoralizing, and physically taxing wind might be over.
Yes.
And now we can move into some serious heat. I was reading a report, Vegas, with the Almanac.
Yeah.
And they say that we may see a 1, a 2, and a 4. 124.
Really?
Yes.
When, this year?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Wow.
They're predicting there could be a 124. Now, I was in Phoenix for a 122. And I think I've told you the story before. It was 122 in just the general 122, and at the airport they stopped the planes from landing because the tires were coming off. They were melting the minute they hit the runway. But 124 in Vegas, that's astounding.
Yeah, because I think the hottest that's ever been recorded is 118.
Yeah.
And I think we had 118 or close to 117 last summer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I'm always very glad to see the heat come.
Yeah.
Because for those of you who haven't been to Vegas in April, don't come in April, or don't come and stay outside because it's awful. Yeah, it is awful. And every year I think we say it's been the worst year, but I'm very confident in saying it's the worst. It's the worst year. Yeah. I've had things blow into my yard, out of my yard. I have a very complex landscape, and I'm cleaning constantly. So,
one time I found in my shrubbery out in front of my house after a windstorm, somebody's HIV test result paper.
Oh, no.
Holy shit. I thought
negative or positive?
Fortunately for them, it was negative.
Oh, good for them.
It had a name at the top that I didn't recognize, didn't have an address, but it's just like, oh, Jesus. I hope that they've got this information, right? I don't want this.
Right.
But yeah, you find all kinds of things that'll
absolutely.
blow up on your...
yeah. I mean, it's you don't really want to have an umbrella here in Las Vegas unless you just literally...
Unless you want to give it to your neighbor, 4 houses down.
Oh, right. Or you bolt it to your house in some way. No, it's horrible. Oh, but it's horrible. But 104, 124. I hope we see that. I want to see that.
Yeah.
People don't realize, if you're not from Phoenix or Vegas, what those temperatures mean. 104 was hot. It was...
that's about average, I think, in the summer. I think it's 105 daytime.
And for the patrons of the hotels who from the Midwest or the East Coast that aren't used to 104, they're keeling over all the time. But it's really not that hot. You just got to, be mindful of what you're doing. But then you go to 114 when you're outside and there's a sting to it. And we're very used to it. And there is no 20 minutes on one side and then flip over and do your back. There's no suntan.
That's a broiler.
You got to.
Yeah, you're in a broiler.
But then people don't realize that next 5 to 7 degrees there's a danger to it, even for people living here. My mother is a bit older, and I tell her, go in the house for God's sake. It's astounding. I mean, you walk out and your arms burn, your legs burn. God forbid you're wearing, Crocs or like Merrells with open toes, and you just roast your feet. But I like it though.
There's a lot of comedians, they joke about it. Goes, oh yeah, haha. But it's a dry heat. Well, it is. And it makes it far more pleasant or tolerable anyway.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, during April, I always describe it as standing on a skillet with a hairdryer in your face. And then it lets go. So, but we're looking forward to it. But I want to thank our sponsor for this month, CWO Designs. Great guys over there. That's CWOdesigns.com. They just put out something cool. I just saw it, and we've talked about wine holders and glass holders and bottle openers for guys' man cave bars, but they just put out something. It was a one-off, and I believe they made it out of ammo box, and it was this really, really cool pub table. But if you like really just interesting wood decor items or fine decor items, check them out. CWOdesigns.com, and we thank them so much for their sponsorship this month. I want to mention something right off the top. There's a Twitter handle. I don't know the person, but there's a Twitter handle out there called Just11. So it's JUSTWONONE, just 11, like you won something.
Yeah.
Just11, and he made a joke, and it was all in jest, but it got me to thinking about what we're going to talk about today. And he said, check out the Pod Bay Door, and for things that you may not know about, and he didn't realize there was anything else to do but gambling. Okay, obviously said in jest, but we're going to answer some questions today, and the first one is, what do you think of the MGM and Caesars, both reporting low first and second quarter earnings? Very quiet. I saw very, very few discussions about that.
I saw very little about Caesars. Now, MGM, they were trying to blame October 1st shooting. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, I'm not buying that.
No, I'm not buying that.
9/11 was one thing because that affected transportation into our city. Mm-hmm. But the October 1st incident didn't.
No.
I mean, that didn't shut down airports. It didn't,
No, tragic as it was, no, I don't believe so. I think it was... newsworthy. Had a couple of cycles. Still, it proves that we're not prepared as a city for that type of situation. However, going back to the just one, it's, I think, for the first time in all of my tenure here, or 20 year, but tenure here, here in Vegas, that I can honestly say that people are not gambling.
Yeah.
They are now, and what is the reason? I don't know. There's myriad reasons. We can blame the millennials being broke and living with their mom or living in trailers. We can blame the new money given to the Chinese market. We can blame Macau not being a great market and sucking the money away from Vegas. Because of all the the repairs needed, as far as marketing in Macau. We can blame the giant, pink elephant in the room. The job market's not great in Las Vegas, and it's interesting because the article that I read to strengthen, my discussion today said that the one factor that is most interesting is that people are going back to Europe. People are taking their money, and they're talking about boomers, mm-hmm. and they're talking about Gen Xers, which is John and me.
Yeah.
And they're the people that have the money. We're not spending our money in Vegas, right? Or things like that. They mentioned Orlando, but I mean, I don't know if boomers are going to Orlando.
That's a kid's thing.
Yeah, but that we're going back to international travel.
Nice.
We're not going to Vegas, and people aren't going to Vegas. And the other giant, specter hanging over Vegas is the per person dollars spent. It's now in the hundreds, not the thousands.
Yeah.
And there aren't families of four coming because Vegas said, we don't want your kids. We don't want your family of four. We want you and the wife or you and the girlfriend, depending on how you're traveling.
And with everything else being so expensive, I mean, you go out to dinner and the arugula salad is $18, mm-hmm. and you're broke and you're still hungry when you leave.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, I don't have any money to gamble anyway.
Right.
And I think also, the novelty's worn off in terms of you can gamble almost anywhere.
Yes.
Now, and also that it could just be a one-off. People, okay, I did that. Now I'm going to try something else.
Yeah.
I'm going to do something else. And the way they appealed, we've talked about how the town reinvents itself.
Yes.
And, maybe they're appealing to people who they don't know the games. You and I, we learned table games from our fathers. Sure. Because they played them. And that was always, even people who didn't know table games, they played slot machines. Mm-hmm. And there was something, I really think that they don't understand this, something about feeding those slot machines tassile coins, that you actually feel that, you can see the payout, you can hear it, you can grab handfuls of silver dollars. Mm-hmm. that was really something special about that. It bordered on being really sexy. I won one time. I said all I had was a couple of fistfuls of dimes. There couldn't have been more than $5 here. But I thought, holy shit, look at all this money I won.
Yeah.
Now what do I get? I get a card or something.
Right.
That's not the same thing.
No, it's very impersonal. I agree.
Is.
I totally agree with you. But the my point is that in the 4 years, I think it's 4 years for me that I've been here. This is the first time I can actually say with confidence that the machine that is Vegas has capitulated to the market. It is no longer putting all the eggs in the gambling basket. Yeah. However, I think the baskets that it's putting eggs in are failing as well. You know, like you said, the $18 arugula salad, and the $25 two-burger meal. You know, I know there's a place in town. I'm not going to mention them because I like the folks over there, but there's a fried chicken plate you can pick up for $40. You get 2.5 pieces of chicken and some mashed potatoes and some atmosphere for $40.
Yeah.
No, they're not going to do that. But are there other things to do other than gamble? Yes, and I think people are not only are they trying to find those things and enjoy themselves here in Las Vegas while not having, just a smattering of gambling, or they're not coming here at all.
Yeah.
There are, like I've mentioned before, and Just One is a very interesting Twitter account because they keep up with all the current events and what's happening. And of course, the latest thing is the official crossover from Monte Carlo to the Park Place, and the park over downtown.
Palace Station is changing too.
Yeah, Palace Station is changing. Yeah. And but it's just a bunch of those news spots. It's these clickbait news spot things about Vegas, and nobody's talking about what's the real problem.
Yeah. Because it used to be Las Vegas created the market.
Yes.
And then they kind of like in the way Apple, when Steve Jobs, when they developed the iPad, the people laughed at it at first.
Yes.
And then he said, no, you're going to want one of these things.
Yeah.
And after a while, they became indispensable. Everybody's got to, I got to get a tablet.
Yeah.
Well, he pretty much said everybody needs one of these. And Steve Wynn was that way, I think, back in the 90s. With the reinvention of Las Vegas. And before that, Bugsy Siegel, with you're going to want this. You're going to want this place to come here and let your hair down, whatever. At that time, it was the gambling. And, I see local ads for what is it, the Casablanca out in Mesquite.
Yes.
And it's just just the way Vegas used to be. Well, that's nice, but it's all by itself. And who the fuck wants to go to Mesquite?
Well, you don't want to roll back Vegas all the way to being alone in the desert.
Yes.
With Bugsy standing there in the middle.
Yeah.
Although it still kills me that movie, great movie.
Yeah.
And astounding cast. But when he's standing there looking at what is going to be the Flamingo, he's actually looking at several casinos that should have been there. One of which was the El Rancho that was already built. But it's a great movie either way.
Yeah. A couple of episodes ago, or it was longer ago than that, but I'd mentioned about Marie Callender's, and that was where Lefty Rosenthal's car got blown up in the movie Casino. It happens during the first scene.
Right.
And what he would do is, because he was a creature of habit, he would park at the Tony Roma's, which was next door to Marie Callender's, and he'd go to Marie Callender's for breakfast. That's where they knew where the car would be at when they put the bomb under it. Well, I was over there. It's off of East Sahara. A couple of weeks ago, and I realized that the Marie Callender's is still there, but Tony Roma's is gone.
Yes.
It's it's a, I don't know, Hustler dildo store or something. I thought, that's kind of lost it. Tony Roma's too. That's right, they're gone too.
Yeah, Tony Roma's it still maintains a property at the Fremont Hotel downtown.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people are talking about this, and all the Vegas podcasts. They're extremely positive, as they should be. And we leave all the negativity for us, Jim.
Yeah.
But we're not being negative. We're we're just recognizing
we're critical. I mean,
so many years. 25. How long have you been here? I always forget.
God, I was here at 99. Of course, I left for a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean, we're cresting towards 50 combined years, and we the trends are obvious, but the marketing machine that is Vegas is very good about keeping things down. Obviously the recent tragedies, those are tough to keep down, but I mean, there are a lot of things people don't know that happen here that are just commonplace for us. But this is the first time, where there is an acquiescence of the town that actually bothers me. Yeah. I want it to be a gambling town. I want it to be, a vice-laden pit, and with some fun that I could enjoy. It's changing, and I don't know. Yeah. And she's gonna change, and she's gonna slough off all the silliness. But I don't know what she's gonna turn into now. I cannot tell.
No, and we mentioned this before, that it seems that they want to turn it into a real city instead of kind of like, a destination. In that sense, he called it an adult Disneyland. Disneyland tries to emulate, it's downtown Disney, like it's a real city. Mm-hmm. But we all know it's just it's a place where you go. Right. And the fact that we have a professional hockey team, and we're going to get the Raiders. Yeah. And they're turning it into, Dallas. Or someplace like that, or Phoenix.
Right.
And again, it's just like, no, those are real cities. Las Vegas is Las Vegas. It has a reputation, and we want to keep it that way.
I absolutely agree. And there's a specialness to Las Vegas that I think is trying to be rubbed out. No pun intended. All deference to Bugsy, but I don't want it to be. It needs to be there. It needs to be campy. It needs to be silly. It needs to be serious, and it needs to continue with the wonderful stories that are happening. And wonderful stories, aren't college kids throwing up in pools. Yeah. It's funny enough, but I mean, we continue to have these great stories about Vegas. May they be bad or good, and that makes us historically what we are. And you're absolutely right. I don't want to turn into a Fort Worth or a Dallas or whatever, but we'll see. I mean, I think it's a good decade to see what exactly is going to happen, but maybe 5 years. I don't know. The financial things happen a little quicker now, and I think we're going to get some red lights, flashing soon about Vegas. Yeah. But that question actually was sent in by Ron, so thanks, Ron, for that. Both John and I, as we have discussed many, many times, had a storied career as concierge here in town. One of the things we've mentioned is that neither John nor I took the time to be what is called Les Clés which is a French term. It's arguable. One definition is the gold key or the gold keys. The other is the keeper of the keys. But when you go to a concierge,
either case is suitably pretentious for the
nose in air and then say it. But it's Les Clés d'Or. It's spelled Clay is the one that throws people. CLEFS D''OR Clés d'Or. And it's actually a group of individuals now where you have some continuing education, some schooling, and you further your career by doing this. It's sort of a badge of honor. And if you go to a concierge desk, you will see the again, sort of a pretentious little buttons on, and they look like cross keys, and they usually get two of them. And somebody asks, "What is that?" Well, John.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah, it's kind of like in the military where you get stripes to indicate a certain rank.
Yes.
So yeah, it's the same thing. In order to receive or to be bestowed the honor of being the Clés d'Or.
Festooned.
Yes. If you look at their website, they actually have a website.
Yes.
And what it is, you have to be 21 and over, or at least 21, and you have to have been a concierge for 5 years, and you have to work at a desk where it is called a concierge. Now, that might seem kind of strange, but as we know, particularly for us in Las Vegas, we often did things that maybe in a smaller hotel was done by the bell desk. Mm-hmm. At the Venetian, we booked tours, and the shows and things like that. If you go to the Bellagio, well, go to the Bell Desk. That's what they do. The concierge do other things. They do more guest services. That's another name.
Right.
If you work in such a place, it could be, like I said, a smaller hotel, 150 rooms somewhere, and you're doing the same function of a concierge, but you're not called a concierge. You're tough shit. You're not going to be a clé d'or. You have to have the title on there.
Now, I must say, and this is my personal opinion, the clé d'or, although they have gone through... they have made an effort, I guess that's the what I'll say, and spent a little money to do so. I will not say that a clé d'or is any better or worse than any other concierge at the desk. It's just they have made this effort to be a little more knowledgeable, so to speak. However, it is. Concierge in Las Vegas are not the same thing.
Right.
I always refer to Michael J. Fox's performance in For Love of Money, where he was this moving and shaking and doing deals and had tickets in his pockets and trades and everything else. That ain't us.
No,
kids.
we knew a few people, and if they couldn't get tickets, because again, it's a different town. We know that if it's a popular show, there's going to be a casino block. And how can we get access to those tickets? Well, we may not be able to get to that, but we know somebody who does, and they're going to charge an armful for those. That's just the way it is.
Absolutely. I mean, we had a little bit of juice back in the beginning of our concierge careers. That was quickly removed from us because the hotel, the corporate giant that is Venetian, realized, hey, they're making money and we want that.
Yeah.
And they did. They stripped us of quite a few things. But if you want to look up more of the clé d'or, there's actually a good website. It is the official National Organization of Hotel Lobby Concierges.
Ooh.
Yes, it's a tough one. But look, it's www.lcdusa.org. And again, it's lcdusa.org, and you can learn about the official nature of Les Clés d'Or. But again, I applauded people that went through that. However, I think it was. To say that they were better trained concierge, I think that's a misnomer.
Yeah.
I do not think so. In fact, you do not receive specific training geographically. I mean, you didn't train to be a concierge in Las Vegas. The best training we ever had was the fact that we were given access to tours and hotels and restaurants. Yeah. And it was a kick. It was so fun. But that answers what a Les Clés d'Or is.
It was funny is that we used to deal, because again we had an in-house florist at the Venetian when we first opened, and the thing is he was the only guy in town who wasn't open 24 hours, right?
Yeah, Jose and his daughter. Yeah.
Well, Jose was the one we called. He had a store he had an actual shop at the Stardust at that time, and we called it, and he was a very good florist, and he was always there. He brought flowers. We got a commission. Everything was great. We did a lot of business for that guy. Right. And we would get scolded for not using the in-house florist. We said, you don't understand. You leave a message for the guy, and then he didn't respond. Now the guest is pissed off because they didn't get their flowers. Yeah. I call Jose's place, and he's a real guy, and he's there, and he answers, and he was a really good guy. Yeah. Problem was, and he had a daughter, and she was a sweet girl. I remember that she came and worked at the hotel even as an assistant manager or something. Right. And but he had a son who was a dick. If you remember, he came to work at the hotel as well, and he was saying those fucking concierge, they're all a bunch of leeches, and they're all trying to, they're only looking out for themselves. Oh, is that right? Okay, well, hey, if they want us to use the in-house florist, sorry, Jose.
Yeah, we did.
And then all of a sudden, we started getting calls from, hey, how come you're not ordering any more flowers? I'm over here drowning in daisies, for Christ's sake. Well, that's tough. Yeah. Don't bite the hand that feeds.
Yeah. I got, that reminds me, I got into We mentioned ticket brokers. You mentioned it just a minute ago.
Yeah.
Ticket brokers are the salt of the earth, John. They're wonderful folks. But I got into it with them, and we were never right. You ever notice that?
Yeah.
No matter what we did, even the flower thing, we got shit over it.
Yeah.
But I got into it with the ticket broker, and I ultimately had to. Well, I didn't really apologize. I called him back after being very stern with him on the phone. I called him back and said, "Hey, let's just call it even and do this deal." But we were never. When you work for a hotel, that's the problem. You look behind you, and there's just a tumbleweed rolling by. There's no support, no help. You're never in the right. The customer is always right. Is this horrifying, tattoo they put on your neck along with a barcode, and that was what was discouraging about. Otherwise, could have been an interesting job.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was ultimately it's just a corporate grind.
And the other thing is that when you did try to go out of your way, you did have something that was unusual and it took some time. You got your ass chewed out for being gone for so long, like the desk. I had to help a Japanese guest. As you know, I got called in from the casino because I could speak Japanese.
Sure.
And I went there and I helped this person and they wanted to come back. They said, "Oh, this is nice. We'd gone to another hotel. I think it was a Bellagio. They didn't have anybody who spoke Japanese there."
Yeah.
So I was feeling pretty good about that. Hey, this is somebody's going to come back. They're spending money in the casino.
Right.
I come back. I get pulled aside. "You left the desk." I said, "Well, it wasn't like it was empty. There was always two of us there."
Right.
"You were supposed to give a room tour." "Well, sorry, I wasn't here for that.
Right.
Get somebody else to do it." I got called in. So you're going to get written up. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Please.
And ultimately, remember we went to the concierge desk, which is very common nowadays. Went to a point system.
Yeah.
And my first question is, how do you win? How many points do you get? How's your Japanese? Are you losing it?
Oh, a little bit, but I can still. When I was in Japan.
Your family though speaks Japanese.
Yeah. Yeah. So 6-7 years ago, I had to go there, and I was on a layover going to China, work on a test for middle school.
Yeah.
And I had a layover. I was fine.
Yeah, we always used to say, "John, ichiban desu ka ne?" Yeah, John is number one. He was our favorite. Speaking of John, Stacy, thank you for that question about Clédor, Les Clédor. It's a lovely resume point, but not a huge deal. Next, from Bob, what is John's education?
I didn't go to
student of Hard Knocks.
Yeah, Hard Knocks. I went to Fort Knox. A student of Hard Knocks, and
yes. But John is highly educated.
Well, let's see. I have a 2-year degree. Did you know this in criminal justice?
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Because back in the days, in the 70s, late 70s, I was, it was the 70s. We were into corrections, and not of the grammatical kind.
Yes.
But of rehabilitation.
Okay.
And I was interested. My dad had been a teacher for a year at Soledad State Prison.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I remember that, and that's something that I had wanted to do.
Okay.
So I took that, and it was interesting is that in administration of justice, they had different majors, and one of them was police science. So I had to have classes with those guys. So it was interesting because in the major you could also have, there was police science and so I was in the corrections section of that, but we had to take classes together and the types that I didn't like and they didn't like me, so we had that in common. Where the authoritarian, lock everybody up and throw away the key sorts. So I suffered through that, and then I have a Bachelor of Arts in English Literature from University of California, Berkeley. Okay. And I've got a master's degree in technically it's in TESOL, teaching English to speakers of other languages, which also includes applied linguistics. So. And
that was acquired where?
That was at the Monterey Institute of International Studies, which is now part of Middlebury College out of, I think Vermont. Middlebury is.
Excellent. So, But and now the follow-up question from Bob is, why is John so cranky? And I had to laugh. There are a couple questions we've received for John. Often John, Crabby John, Cranky John, and why so? What has happened in his nearing 60 years.
That's right.
Nothing has happened. John's
always been cranky.
John's a straight shooter. I don't find him cranky per se, but he has lived a wonderful life. He's a true traveler, so he's definitely not cranky. But I think much like me, John. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, John. Is fatigued with the insincerity that has strapped this world, and I think that is what comes maybe shines out as crankiness, but it's not. It's maybe disappointment. I don't know. Do you agree?
Yeah. I mean, I always thought if it weren't for the fact that I'm an urbanite, I could be a hermit.
Yeah.
Just kind of be shut away from it all. And
yes.
And back in the 70s, I remember on that show, remember Mod Squad?
I do.
Yes. And there was Link, Can You Dig It? And Julie and the other guy, I can't think of he was always known as the angry young man. And some of us never outgrow that stage. We're just always pissed off.
No, that's very
But if
true.
you remember when the podcast first started, you had the gear grinders.
I did, yes.
So.
And we're gonna, it's evolving the podcast, based on people's questions and comments and concerns, so that's why. But yeah, I mean, our gears have not been ground down. I mean, we still have a few that we could do, but so what? I'm going to interview you, John. What brought you here, and why did you stay? I think we've talked about what brought you here.
Yeah. Why
did you stay?
For me, because I have a virtual office, I can live anywhere, and I choose to live here. I like the weather. I mean, we talked about it. I've lived in places where it rained a lot.
Yeah.
Pacific Northwest in Japan, it rained. It seemed to me it rained all the time. Cloudy skies. If you really think I was cranky now, holy shit! You should have seen me 10 years ago.
I bet.
I like the weather here. The fact that I got a big house. I couldn't have a house this big. It's over 2,600 square feet.
Right.
I couldn't have that in a lot of places. So,
okay.
I do that, and it's people mind their own business, I think, unlike in other places where I live, where everybody, there's always a lady on the street that knows everybody else. And that's really nice in some ways. But in other ways, it's just like, so I got a new car, somebody else got a new car. I don't care to hear about it. Good for them.
Right.
So here, it's just like I get along really well with my neighbors. I don't know very much about them. Some of them I don't even see for months at a time.
Right. I agree. It's I've never lived, in a less neighborly place, and maybe it's me. Not maybe, it's absolutely me, or I espouse that particular part of Las Vegas, but and I don't blame the transient nature of Vegas. I don't think that has anything to do with it, because we're talking about a level of permanence. I mean, we're talking about neighbors. Granted, there's a lot of rentals, but I mean, I barely talk to my neighbors. And I never lived in a place really where you did. I lived a significant time in Phoenix, and I was born in Colorado and went to school at Pepperdine. But boy, it's tough here.
Yeah,
it's a tough town. I mean, between the heat there's no community per se. And I'm talking about like barn raising community. That old adage about that. But I don't know. It's sometimes I regret that about our town.
Yeah.
And at the same time, recently I noticed there was an Instagram remarking about the recent thefts in production studios. One of which is I'm part of that community, and we seem to have a high theft rate here in Las Vegas. I don't know about our murder rate currently, but I don't know. Do you regret not having that community involvement? Where everybody kind of has barbecues and helps people, and I don't know. I don't feel it. No,
because and part of that, of course, for me is when I lived in Japan. When I first went there, and again, this is the mid '80s, and I lived in the country. I was a real novelty. I was a freak. And I really stood out. And, you know, I lived in a city of 500,000 people.
Right.
And I think, quite honestly, there were probably 15 foreigners in that whole city that were visible.
Yeah.
There were a few we heard about that were like, well, yeah, well, this guy, you know, this Mr. Hirohito, he's married to this British woman, but she never basically, and they live out in the country, even from where the city was. So they lived way out in the out. She never comes into town, so we never saw her. She didn't count. There were other people who were other Asians who might have been foreigners. They might have been from China or Korea. Technically, the Japanese couldn't tell them apart. But people who were obviously a foreigner, like me, where, you know, it's just like, you know, everybody has kind of a weird neighbor, the albino, you know, somebody who has a pet monkey or something like that. Right. I was all of that rolled into one. Wow. So, and if another foreigner, and this is the other thing with the few people that we knew, was that if you go out and get drunk, and you do something kind of crazy, people are going to say, oh, there was this crazy ass foreigner who was drunk. Oh, I know, it's John. It's John. We don't look anything alike. Doesn't matter. They thought we all looked alike anyway. So, yeah, I heard you got drunk the other night. No, it wasn't me, but I know who it was. It was Alan. And this was the whole thing. If it were me, then I would see Alan and go, hey, I heard you must have gotten drunk because somebody was saying it was me. So, you know, you live in an aquarium. Everybody's staring at you. So,
do you think that because, you know, obviously we've talked about China and Japan and their communities coming to Las Vegas and driving, you know, what used to be a healthy market, do you think they came here because they had such a homogeneous society? You know, did they want to break away from that everybody's the same and come here?
I know.
What about Vegas attracted them?
You mean for visitors?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, when in the 90s, there were a lot of documentaries on TV, Japanese television, about Las Vegas. I even saw a friend of mine, Gary Darwin, who was a magician and a bellman at the Riviera. I saw him on one of those shows. Oh, Jesus Christ, there's Darwin. But you know, they would have these are kind of the lighter shows. It's not like a History Channel type documentary or something like that. But people saw that and I want to go there. Why? Because it was on television. So they would come here and they want to have their picture taken. Right. You know, in front of the Eiffel Tower or the model or the fake Eiffel Tower. They want their picture taken. You know, in the Mirage. The Bellagio fountains when they opened. But so there was all these things that they had heard about. They'd seen it on TV. They want to come here and take the picture. Now, it was interesting. I was in San Diego a couple weekends ago. And I go in a Thai restaurant. And every Thai restaurant always has a young, cute woman who works there. You can't tell if she's 16. She could be 30, you know. Right. So I start talking to this woman. I said, where are you from in Thailand? Usually, of course, they always say, I'm Bangkok, you know. Yeah. Because that's what she said. Well, I'm from the South. I said, well, I've been all through Thailand. Where in the South? She said, well, I'm from Samui. Well, that's an island. And I had been there. And I said, oh, yeah, I've been to Koh Samui. In fact, I was there before they had an airport. This really made me feel old. She goes, oh, yeah, well, when I was born, the airport had already been there about 6 years. But when I was there, you know, you had to take the overnight train from Bangkok to Suratani, which was like 12 hours, and then take the ferry, which was like 45 minutes to get out to Koh Samui. So anyhow, she asked me where I lived. I said I lived in Las Vegas. Oh, well, her cousin lived in New York and said, I have to go to Las Vegas. How far is it? I said, by plane, it's like less than an hour. Oh, she was so excited. Oh, I get to go to Las Vegas. She had no idea where it was, but she'd heard of it. You know, and this idea that, hey, the cousin said I have to go there. Right. So I got a recommendation. I got to. So, yes, there is this idea that it's the place to go. Everybody wants to go there. I'm not going to be weird and go someplace that nobody's heard of.
I see.
Where you and I would be a little bit different. I'm going to go to, you know, everybody's going, you're saying going to Europe this year. Well, I'm going to go to Australia. Yeah. Just to be different.
Yeah. Well, we love all the Australians down there. But I have a bonus question. No, you didn't get this one. But it actually has to do with exactly what we're talking about. And it was, hold on. Teddy said, how does there was a long text in front of this, but basically he was saying he understands that we've traveled quite a bit. How does Las Vegas rank as far as safety? And because we've talked about how does it rank along global cities, and it ranks okay. It has a huge brand, but it's not London.
Yeah.
So how does it rank them in your opinion as far as safety? Because you've been to places where most people would think twice.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I'm not ready for Bangkok, or I'm
Yeah.
not ready for Manila.
Manila.
Yeah. And you know what? You're probably not. So how do you think it ranks? People in Manila, people in Bangkok, are they worried about coming here, or is it just?
No, the Japanese were.
Yeah.
Japanese were because when you live there and people meet you for the first time, they always ask you the same questions.
Yeah.
Can you use chopsticks? I always want to have a T-shirt that just says, yes, I can, no, I can't, in 1984. So whenever they ask me the question, well, when did you get here? I could just point to the answer. But, can you use chopsticks? Do you like sushi? And one of the questions was, have you shot a gun? Or do you own a gun?
Wow.
That was really common because they just assume they've seen movies.
Yeah.
And usually the movies that sell over there were back then, were like Charles Bronson coming home and his wife and daughter are raped and he's got to go get his piece and go out and, and get revenge. So they just had this idea that, it's just the Wild West. It's dangerous wherever you go. And we know that statistically Las Vegas has a very high crime rate, but that's because they base crime statistics on population of people who actually live here.
Yes.
And so it's per capita. But what they don't figure into it is that we get millions of visitors every year. And very often those are the ones that have the crime happen to them. They're drunk. Yes. They get into a fight.
Yes.
They get rolled. Those sorts of things that happen. So is it dangerous? Well, if you're going to behave like that, yeah. If I'm going to Manila and I'm going to go hanging out in titty bars and I've got a flash roll with me, I can kind of expect that somebody's going to try to want to come between me and that flash roll.
Yes.
But if you stick to certain places, you're not going to have any problems. Same thing with Bangkok.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's bad in every city.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't go there. And I should not have gone to Naples when I traveled to Italy.
Yeah.
But the one thing that being said, one thing Las Vegas doesn't have that I believe other cities do, specifically Naples, and I'm sure the Indonesian areas, in Manila, Bangkok, are mobs, the mafia.
Yeah. Oh.
Because I was directly affected in Naples, by this pickpocketing crew. And are there pickpockets here in Las Vegas? Yes, but we don't really have to. There literally aren't community and governmental signs warning you on the train or on the monorail in Las Vegas. Watch out for pickpockets. There's a couple here and there, but I think that's where the difference is.
Yeah, I remember when I was in Manila at the same time that the Pope was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he was giving a mass, and I think it's the largest in history. Like 1 million people in Manila showed up for it. And there were signs everywhere, beware of the pickpockets.
Wow. Yeah. Now, that's one thing people may not know about Las Vegas. We've talked about it being a red state.
Yeah.
Or not Las Vegas, but Nevada. But Las Vegas is an it has been in the last... I'm going to go so far as to say 4 administrations.
Yeah.
It is a huge stumping city for presidential campaigns.
Yes.
And we have one of the most unique and unsafe airports in the world for the president to come into, because our airport is immediately accessible.
Yeah.
You can park as people do. There's a place there's a road called Sunset, and you can park right there. And there's a lot of cameramen that love to take pictures of the jets arriving, and you can see Air Force One come on in and land.
I see it from my porch here. I can see it coming in.
And then of course the gauntlet, the bottleneck occurs.
Yeah.
But if you didn't know that, we literally you can drive right up to the landing areas of McCarran Airport and see any important plane, may it be the Area 51 plane or Air Force One, and land here. And so it's a little bit of trivia there for you. But, well, John, thank you for this information. I did not know that about your criminal justice background.
Yeah, I've got that.
Why did you not go in the FBI? You would have been a wonderful profiler. The drugs. It was the drugs, right? Yeah.
It was, yes, exactly. They would say they actually had an interview once.
Or the psych exam. That's probably.
Yes, it was some government that goes, if you ever tried anything.
Yes.
And they says, get up and leave. We'll find out about it. And, so like half the people got up and left.
Sure.
Including me. It's just like, okay, well, gee, there goes that.
But again, we want to thank our wonderful sponsor this month, CWO Designs. You can find them at cwodesigns.com. Wonderful woodworking and decor and fine decor items. Check those guys out, cwodesigns.com. And again, if you want to see some current events and some fun things, go to check out the Twitter handle at just11. And that's WONONE, just 11, at Twitter, and you'll get some really interesting trivia. But John, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Great conversations. And if you have any questions or concerns about our conversations here, please email us at thepodbaydoorlv@gmail.com. And if you're surfing around iTunes, if they're in anymore, I don't know. Is Apple still around? I don't know. But if you're surfing iTunes, we would love a review from you. And let us know when you do that, and we'll give you a shout out on the podcast. But for John, this is Jamie. We will see you next week. Thanks to everyone listening and watching. You can catch the Pod Bay Door on the Podbean app or any of your favorite podcast apps, including iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, and Stitcher Radio. You can watch the show on our YouTube channel at the Pod Bay Door Podcast. Please download, like, and subscribe. Our social connectivity screen is coming up. Check in with us on Facebook, Twitter, and WordPress. The Pod Bay Door is closed and talent is out. Hey everybody, thank you very much for tuning into the show. We would love to hear your show suggestions and comments. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, please click to subscribe. You can also connect with us on Facebook using @PBD Podcast, on Twitter using @TPBD Podcast, and on WordPress at thepodbaydoor.wordpress.com.